Gotta like to call the January 12th, 2026 policy committee meeting to order. First meeting of the new year. If you would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I've sat next to you. You get to stand.
Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We move on to the roll call. Mr. Lang, please.
Bill McIntosh,
Present.
Crystal Vanouche.
Here.
Chris Jakubowski,
Here.
David Brown,
Here.
Dante Diggs,
Here.
Lori Hayes,
Lori Hayes participating online tonight with a due to a caregiving issue.
Greg Kitchen,
Here.
Shannon Holmes,
Here.
Mullins, Robert Schneider,
Here.
Pamela Young. Present. Chair, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to say, for the purposes of attendance forum, that my kids are
Hello? Hello?
Also, what is the impact of the modeling done by the consultant? What is the cost in separating out commerce parcels? Potentially without commerce, does this also impact the Stafford comprehensive plan projects that included a future north-south path from Plantation Drive to Trust Road, to Enon, to Centerford Parkway, and to Nine Road? Additionally, tonight there will be discussion regarding a potential crossing into Spotsylvania connecting to Route 4E. You will recall that CTAC had recommended this grant to provide travelers with greater choices, creating greater regional impact. This new access point connecting to Route 3 creates a better grid and includes all three jurisdictions. You'll recall that level of service modeling had identified that with 37,000 vehicles per day anticipated to use the bridge and the parkway, that the intersections in the city and Spotsylvania had the same amount of delay as no bridge option. The promise of an alternate branch allows drivers to reach their intended destinations without being funneled through what would be a severely congested Gordon Shelton Boulevard. Path you'll be shown involves just 4 parcels, the largest of which is owned by the county, and endeavors to minimize impact along nearby homeowners. This area is essentially the only available location and of course might not be available in the future, as well as currently being less costly than what a future endeavor will require. Please investigate this solution.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Mr. Lang, is there anyone else? Any other members of the public? All right, Mr. Lang, do we have any letters or
Yes.
submissions?
Was sent to us via the website from Declan Gilmer. Declan says, Fredericksburg area sorely needs increased weekend bus service beyond the UMW route. I would also love to see multi paths extended along busy roads such as Lafayette Road. The way neighborhoods are laid out along Lafayette, i.e. disconnected, it's difficult to find a route where I need to go that does not require hiking on busy roads, especially at night. Riding on these roads is unsafe. And that is all of our public comments that we received online.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lang. Let's move on to item 6, the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, consent agenda passes. Item 7, the FAMPO administrator, Mr. Awas.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think great. Happy New Year to you all and welcome to 2026. Been back a week and a bit, and it feels like it's been a year already. So much going on. We want to just welcome our new members. Some of them have already been elected. Stafford has had their appointments by their board. So welcome to Supervisor Diggs, who is now not an alternate, but a full member. Welcome to Dr. Young, who is a full member, not an alternate, and welcome back to Supervisor Van Noosh. The other jurisdictions, I believe, are meeting tomorrow night, if I'm correct. So we welcome back the returning members, and I know some folks are attending as alternates or are attending just as a visitor who will be appointed tomorrow. But we just want to welcome you all, look forward to a great year ahead, and we'll make a point of welcoming those who are appointed in the next week at the February meeting. So, where are we? Just some items that are in our inbox or our to-do list for this year. We're starting work on the new 2055 Regional Long-Range Transportation Plan. I arrived at FAMPO and GWRC when the current 2050 LRTP was just begun. So we've come full circle, and I'm here for the start of the next LRTP. So I'm kind of almost at the point where I arrived 5 years ago. And we now are required every 5 years to update the long-range transportation plan. We've begun the process. And so you'll see from time to time, we'll come to the policy committee with the next section of the plan that we've been working on. And ultimately, at the end, we'll have to do public comment on the transportation plan. But we're going to work on it this year. We need to be complete by April 2027, except for one section, the new constrained long-range plan, which is the list of projects that this MPO intends to get funded and constructed before 2055. That is a constrained list, and it includes only the projects which we believe we will have the funds for. But that has to be done by the end of December. So we will work on that quite soon. We'll be submitting smart scale projects applications for funding, 4 for FAMPO, and 4 will be approved by the GWRC board. We can submit up to 10 initially, but then we'll have to reduce it by 2 so that we only have 4 and 4 at the end. That's our maximum number of slots. We're going to submit 2 federal build grant applications. One to take the river crossing bridge and parkway to the next step, which is the NEPA environmental review and certification process, and the preliminary engineering, which will tell us where the final exact position of the bridge will be. So that's the one. The other one is a widening of I-95 to add additional lanes between Route 3 and exit 126 in Spotsylvania. So that's the second build grant that we'll be applying for the same sort of process to do a NEPA and preliminary engineering. We're going to finish the regional complete streets plan, which Leader has mostly been working on, as well as Carrie. Focuses on bicycle, pedestrian infrastructure, and also transit in the region, transit infrastructure and so on. We're going to develop our new transportation improvements plan, or TIP. This is a federally mandated document. No transportation department or entity is allowed to spend money on capital projects if they are not in the TIP. And all of the TIPs from all of the MPOs in Virginia collectively together form the STIP, which is the statewide transportation improvement plan. So we have to do that more frequently. I believe it's every 3 years, which is a little bit of a pain because we do the long range plan every 5 years, the constrained long range plan every 4 years, and the TIP every 3 years. One day somebody in Congress will decide to do away with all of that and make it all one timeline so that we can do it all at once, because you could actually do it all at once. But anyway, do what we're told. We're going to allocate 2 years of funding for regional projects, and that's the congestion mitigation and air quality funding, the surface transportation block grant funding, and the carbon reduction funding. Those of you who've been here before know that we work through a process of how to allocate the funding. We are going to host 3 to 6 coffee with a planner mornings for members of the public. Members of the public who don't get time to come to our meetings or whatever, we're going to try and, in the community, in our 3 localities, host some meetings where us as staff and planners from the counties and the city can just be available for a day or a morning or an afternoon or an evening to just meet with community members who may want to ask questions, may want to complain about something. We'll be available to just talk them through how things work, where to find help, answer questions they have about transportation planning. Eugene is heading up that program, finding venues in all of your localities and hosting that. And then we have to develop a new, what is called a Unified Planning Work Program, or a UPWP, for financial year 27. And to do that, we have to prepare a budget when we know what our funding allocations are going to be to run the organization for the forthcoming financial year. And we turn that into a plan together with the policy committee needs and the wish list to develop our work program for the FY27. Those are just some highlights of where we are and the things that we're going to be working on for the forthcoming year, calendar year. Right. Transportation Alternatives Program. Many of you know about this. Some may be a new thing. This is a funding program run by the state. Well, kind of federal state. It funds bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and we have a role to play, and the jurisdictions have a role to play in that. The applications went in. There were 109 pre-applications. Originally, 8 of them were screened out because they didn't qualify for some reason. So out of the 89 full applications that were finally submitted, there were 7 that were still screened out. 131 million was requested in total across the state. Projects valued at 247 million, the difference being the local match that people put in. And there are 2 existing projects that needed further funding. You can see by district in our district, that is not FAMPO, that's the VDOT district. There were 7 applications in our district. Slide. So, FAMPO is allocated 1.3 million to allocate automatically to projects, but we have an agreement at FAMPO that our this allocation is specifically allocated to Stafford County because of the North Stafford TMA. So we don't have a prioritization system every year. The agreement was that because we receive additional funding as an MPO because of the North Stafford TMA, this portion of the funding we allocate back to a project in the North Stafford TMA, and you all voted and signed the resolution last year to support that particular project. Next slide. Then there are other funds which are competitive. They're not allocated to an MPO, they're statewide, and the other 6 projects out of the 7 were applied for by localities because FAMPO doesn't actually ever submit a PAP or TA application. We are not an eligible applicant. So Spotsylvania, Stafford, the city, and then other jurisdictions in the Fredericksburg district would have also submitted applications. And these are the funds that those come out of, but that's competitive. Nobody decides that X place gets Y amount of money. It's a more competitive situation. And our CTB member has a role to play in the choosing of the projects, which I'll explain a little bit. So it also happens on a 2-year cycle like SmartScale. So the same story, you prepare projects in the first year and then they score them and allocate funding in the second year. So you can see where the MPOs are, the orange boundaries, those are the MPOs in Virginia, including us. We're over here. The green dots are the scored projects that were submitted this year. And you can see there's a bunch in our area, some in Stafford, some in Pennsylvania. I think there's one in the city. And then there's some further out in the northern neck. So, the pink area is just the MPO areas that are over 200,000 people. This is the North Stafford TMA. For those of you who don't recall, it's connected to Washington, D.C.'s urbanized area. So the D.C. urbanized area terminates in North Stafford. The central urbanized area is not large enough to be an independent TMA yet. So that is the urbanized area of southern Stafford, city of Fredericksburg, and the urbanized area of Spotsylvania. But these were the projects that were submitted, the 7 projects. And you can see over here project scores. So the project that we supported and allocated the 1.3 million to is actually the project that I believe scored the best in the region anyway. And then you can see the remainder of the projects there. Those are the scores that they achieved. But the allocation is not made purely on scoring. The CTB member for the area has a role to play in reviewing those projects, and they try to, together with advice from VDOT and others, get a package that doesn't waste any funding, because you can't partially, according to the rules, you can't partially fund a project. You have to 100% fund a project or not fund a project. So there has to be some work on that. Is that the last slide on this? So here, so our district CTB members work with the TMAs and localities to review that list. They provide a list to LAD, which is the department in VDOT. At-large members of the CTB also have a role to play in the making of the allocation, and the final selections are then published in the draft 6-year improvement plan, which includes all the projects that VDOT is involved with, and it also includes the project of the Department of Rail and Public Transportation, DRPT. They're all in that plan there. Next slide. Yes. This. Sorry. This is just about the long-range transportation plan. What are we doing? We're asking the question, what is our overall vision? And we'd love policy committee input, as well as the other committees at FAMPO. What do you think our region should be doing about transportation? We're going to work on that through the whole year and into next year in terms of the long-range plan. Slide. What are our needs? We have to try and focus on the real needs. And we all have wants as well. We want a better system, and we have to try and work on what do we really need, what do we really want, how are we going to deal with the trade-offs of what the region needs, and we will workshop that with you. Next slide. Vision, the elements of our vision, what are the issues in the region that we want to address, how could the region look? If we implemented everything that we're going to put in this transportation plan that we're going to write, what would it look like if we implemented it all? And is how it's going to look good enough? Is it what we want? Is it what we can afford, etc.? I mentioned this before. Should we pick a name for it? Some metropolitan planning organizations, MPOs, pick a name for their, maybe we want to call it Move 2055 or Vision 2055 or Mobility 20. Think if you want to nominate a name that we should use for it, that's fine too. We're suggesting as staff that we do a very short summary of it when we're finished and make it into a glossy brochure that we can give out, because most people don't read the 900 pages, right? And you can't blame them. We're trying to cut it down this year to maybe, so Eugene said we're going to only do 850 pages. I don't know what the number will be, but even at 850 pages, it's a lot to read all at once. Most people use it as a reference book, not as a, like an encyclopedia, but not as a read it cover to cover like you would a novel. It's meant to be a reference book for us, for VDOT, for the federal government, and so on. We think it should be a little more compact and punchy. Next slide. So the timeline, just in very broad strokes, we've begun at the end of last year working on it. We're going to produce the document during this year. The constrained long-range plan, that's the list of funded or future funded projects, has to be done by December. The rest of it, we're looking at about a May approval with a review in those early months of 27, public participation, edits, reworking sections where we need to, and so on. So, last items of the way ahead. We're starting first step of producing that document. Today, Eugene's going to show you a public goals and needs survey that we want to do to ask the public first on day one, what do they think the region needs? What are their concerns about the transportation system? What should the goals of our long range plan be? And it's in your agenda. Eugene will walk you through that. If you would like us to change one of the questions or something, we're happy to do that. In your pack today is the Smart Scale draft project list. It has 10 projects. Ultimately, we've got to whittle that down to 8. But it is the 10 projects that the locality submitted that qualify for all the criteria and that are at a suitable level of readiness to be able to submit. We will need to remove 2 from that list over the next coming months. We can't allocate the CMAC, STGB, and CR funding until VDOT gives us the final allocation, because every year it's a new number. We don't know what that number is yet. They will contact us probably in March. We'll tell you what the funding is, and then we'll apply our new methodology, make the allocations, and John will walk you through the projects that have been proposed by the various jurisdictions. We're still in the process of screening those projects to make sure that they comply with federal regulations, and that takes a little while. There may be a need for some adjustment to 1 or 2 projects. Smart Scale, the TAC is another adopt this week. Look at those projects that we have on our preliminary list, talk about them further, see if we can reduce them by 1 or 2, or things that we still need to get ready to make those projects viable and ready to be submitted. So that, members, is really where we're going this year, to just give you a quick snapshot overview of where we are. Happy to take any questions, but I think that's my last slide.
Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Ollis, for that little preview. Let's move on to item 8 then, the action discussion items. 8A, CMAC SDBG congestion reduction update. Right.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Next slide. As Ian has already hinted to, one of the major items that the NPO does is act as a that does the project selection and allocations for 3 federal funding sources. The Commonwealth actually provide acts as a pass-through so that when we kind of get through and we'll learn the funding sources from VDOT, we'll be able to provide these items. And just as a note that the state also provides a 20% match. And when we do this about 5 to 6 years into the future, every 2 years. So each year we have approximately $5 million, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less to allocate towards projects in the region. Next slide. So one of the funding sources is congestion mitigation air quality. This is a fairly flexible program that particularly targets the improvements to projects that provide air quality benefits. So this is a requirement for all of these projects. And typically this and its sister program, the carbon reduction program, is a little bit more restricted than some of the other ones. We still have to comply with certain items, but that air quality benefit typically is the main item that we're looking for these type of projects. Next slide. The other project is the Surface Transportation Block Grant. These are very flexible funding for transportation programs in the region. It's flexible enough that it's usually easier to say what's not eligible, and that's usually private roads, maintenance items, or kind of utilities and landscape items. Other than that, you're pretty much good to go on that. And in addition, for our region, we have the MOU with the Washington, D.C. Area that specifically highlights that we have to use a portion of these funds for the transportation management area, the Aerosville area, for the benefit of the TMA. So we always provide a specific set aside, 30% of the total STBG for projects to be submitted in that region. Otherwise, if they don't submit a project, then it goes back into the general pot. Next slide. So although all of these programs are technically separate and have different qualifications, we normally bundle them because usually your jurisdictions can leverage multiple sources of funding. So we put out a call for projects for that. We base our award amounts for these projects based on a formula of population, urbanized population, as well as we take set aside. So we always keep a very small reserve fund that is always rolled over each year. So if we don't use it, we put it back into the pot each year. We provide GW Right Connect $50,000 that's indexed on a 2028 allocation amount, as well as FAMPO. We also submit direct 7.5% of this funding source to transit projects for a competitive process. So after that, once we take all those set asides, we then allocate based on the formula to jurisdictional projects. Next slide. So we had a call for the projects basically the last 3 months of last year. Each one of the jurisdictions submitted projects based on that. And again, we award the projects, not the jurisdiction. And so we're reviewing projects from the city and Stafford and Spotsylvania, as well as projects submitted by Fredericksburg Go. And once we know that the final funding amounts, we can do the actual dollar allocation amounts. Next slide. So we received 17 projects. All of them have all jurisdictions where the present entity has applied for both CMAQ and STBG and or carbon reduction. The city of Fredericksburg has submitted 2 projects, Spotsylvania 7, Stafford County is 5, with 3 of them located in the TMA. And then Fredericksburg Go also has 3 projects submitted as well, with one of them being kind of a common project that we see year after year for just vehicle replacement. If you have any questions about any of these projects, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will continue. Okay, Eugene, next slide. So we do have 2 additional projects that was not applied from each one of the jurisdictions. In October, the policy committee directed us to purchase 2 new bike head counters, and this is something where these funds are committed, so that rollover funds get put back into the fund. And so this is what we're looking to potentially use those for, as well as we're going to bring the 2 scenarios, one for the micro simulation of Carly Silver and Walmart, as well as a scenario that is not included. So slightly more money gets split up. So it's about 26 to 32,000. And so that would quietly trickle into a couple other projects split up on the So again, as Ian said, we are reviewing projects for the eligibility. This requires us to do things like running the air quality tools on each one of the projects to demonstrate an air quality benefit, as well as just going through each one of the project specifics to identify, anything that may be not permissible for reimbursement through the federal fund. So once we have met with all the jurisdictions, we usually have a little bit of follow-up meetings with your jurisdictional staff just to say, hey, this is good, this isn't, maybe we need to do something here. We'll come back to it. This is also when jurisdiction staff also ask us to go back through our other 5 years of funding and say, hey, can you add more funding in FY27 because this project is ahead of schedule and this project is kind of delaying a little bit, so we can kind of do a small inside jurisdiction funding swap just to keep projects on schedule. So again, we'll be coming back before the committee later in the spring with the final allocation amounts. You'll see that produce that big, large, very small text spreadsheet of dollar amounts, and I'll have that available as well as in probably 2 or 3 different kind of flavors, depending on how you want to see how the micro simulations or other projects you would apply added or removed from the scenario list. Any questions?
No questions?
All right, thank you, Dr. Rado. Let's move on to item 8B, the FAMPO regional freight map.
Go to the next slide. So these are just mapping freight volumes in the region. I produced 2 maps for this. This first one is straight up volume. So if you can read the legend down there, it goes in bins from like 0 to 500. The top bin is 4,000 plus. So that's the raw numbers for like tractor trailers, freight trucks that are on the region.
Sorry, just a quick question. Is that per day, per week, per month?
That's per day, AADT. So it's like the averaging daily.
Thank you.
Daily volume. And the next slide, the second map, is just that broken up as a percentage of the total volume, including all the personal automobiles, whatever else down the road. And so this data comes from the Virginia Open Data Portal, and for Stafford and Spotsylvania, it's a bit more recent with volumes as of 2024, and the portal only has data for Fredericksburg through 2022. If you go to the next slide, these are both maps back to back, and if you have them up on your screen, you might be able to see a difference a bit better, realizing distance doesn't help, but it is definitely highlighting where those primary corridors are in the region. And finally, on the last slide, this is just some inspiration for these maps that we took from actually the Hampton Roads area, where they have an interactive freight mapping tool. And I took the bins for our data directly from these maps. So not only does it give us an idea of freight in our region, but you can kind of do a regional comparison as well, seeing against an area like that does have quite a lot.
And Eugene, if you can just flip back one slide. If you just look at that map on the right, folks, the 15% plus item in the legend is one to pay attention to. And if you look at that map, US 17 in Stafford and the I-95 corridor, we have an excess of 15% of the traffic is trucks. That is a lot. So we are a definite freight corridor through the state, and those trucks do have an effect on traffic. It takes longer to speed up and slow down a truck than it does a car, so that the trucks do have an effect on how quickly the traffic moves. And also you can fit less trucks on the road than cars, particularly those horse and trailer or tractor trailer, large volume trucks. And this is the highest volume truck corridor in Virginia. Is right through the middle of our region, up I-95. It's not higher tonnage than I-81. I-81 corridor carries higher tonnage of freight than we do, but we carry higher volume, so more trucks. We have the most trucks on a interstate highway in Virginia coming through this region. And part of that reason is because there's not a lot of alternative routes. There's like one main interstate highway through our region. So it is an important number that Lida is sharing with you. We're over 15% of our traffic on I-95 and on US 17 is trucks. It's a big number.
For these maps too, just as you're looking at them, you might see some gaps in that dark line down 95. And that's not where the truck volume like drops to zero, but it was just a data issue. Where there either wasn't a volume for that particular segment of road or it wasn't matching up with the geography that I was putting the data onto. And also, while the cap here, like Hampton Roads, is 4,000 trucks on a road segment, 4,000 plus. We have truck volumes in our region going like 10,000, 15,000, almost 20,000.
So higher volumes than Hampton Roads.
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
higher than you might predict just looking at the
Specs.
maps. Yeah,
Okay.
the bins, the same bins as Hampton. I didn't see what the highest volume in Hampton Roads area was, but significantly higher than 4,000. That's the point.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor.
I just want to know, like, what constitutes a truck?
Right. So
I mean, it's kind of, like, what are we talking?
yeah,
Do they all have to be 18-wheelers? Like, what are we talking?
I can tell you the classes that I was drawing, like the titles of them. I honestly don't have a super great perspective of what that means, but it was like I think 2-axle, 3-axle, tractor trailer, or truck trailer 1 and truck trailer 2. Those were the VDOT categories from the data source I pulled. If someone wants to like explain what that looks like in layperson terms.
Okay. I mean,
Sorry.
no, that's okay.
I mean, it's 2 actual trucks, so it's the smaller trucks are included in that.
But not like a van, like a box truck kind of thing.
Definitely a box truck. I don't know where I can't tell you off my head where a van ends and a box truck begins, but.
John might know.
Yeah, it's 5 sports and 1,000 potentially. So if you think for buses, that's the best way I can explain.
That's helpful. Okay. That's what I was wondering if like bus size. Thank you.
Supervisor Young, you had a question?
Not in this.
Oh, sorry,
I'm gonna
okay.
go back to
Sorry, Supervisor Young.
A separate category on the data I was using that I did not include in this analysis.
Supervisor Akabowski.
Yeah, thank you. How do we use this data? Is this just more stuff to know?
My question too.
So it's something to watch in terms of planning future interventions as a state, right? We're not able to distinguish on I-95 between a car and a truck and a bus and whatever else. Traffic is traffic. But there are certain interstate funds that are not allocated part of smart scale. Now we can't just access that whenever we want to. There's a state perspective and the state looks into the whole interstate system. But there are certain funds set aside to do that. Also, the freight metrics are part of the smart scale program. I don't know where Carrie is there. I can't think of the exact detail, but smart scale relies on VTron's needs, and VTron's needs, some of them are based on the volume or the tonnage of freight traffic that comes through our region. So the more that grows, the more we're entitled to claim points. The more needs that are identified, the more smart scale projects we can apply for in that region. So it's complicated. The whole system is complicated.
And there's another program called the Rail Industrial Access Program that the RPT oversees. And that you have a company that has access to a rail with so many feet. State will help the last so many feet to get them into that, to get trucks off the road, to encourage them to use the rail. So think of like spots that you guys have, or Stafford, we have the VRA stations So it's a similar type of concept, but it'll put in and I can't think all right now, but where it'll help build some rail lines to get it into the facility. And if you think in that route too, I think that's the by Shannon Airport, you may have one or two. So it's those types of programs. And the goal is to say how many truckloads you get off the interstate. So it's a rail industrial access program
So,
that we haven't really used as a district.
right.
But it is something that's there.
So what we're doing is we're gathering data so that we can open up more pots of money for more
Potentially,
potentially. Well, yes, but
potentially.
And there's been a discussion on the CTV amongst members to look at where are truckers able to park at night or when they hit their miles for the day or their hours for the day. And we've been noticing that they are seeing them park in unsafe places, either in neighborhood streets or along the interstates, along the exits. So there has been discussion amongst CTV members to start looking at, okay, where are we allowing them or where can they legally and safely park, to end their day? And do we as a state need to do something to encourage the behavior we want and discourage the ones we don't, which is parking on the interstate and going to sleep. So we're having that discussion too amongst different members just to try and help about things.
But to answer your question, it helps identify the issue in our region to people higher up the food chain who are able to do something. But it also may, under certain circumstances, open up additional sources of funding to do something about the need, if the need grows.
because I know that a lot of us are looking at warehouses and other distribution centers in our region. And if we're already over capacity, it seems like, or, and I don't want to, I want to encourage it because I think it's good for us and we need the trucks, obviously. But it just seemed to me that this is data that we've been gathering recently as opposed to, I haven't seen this as intense as we have been doing it recently. So there had to be a reason. So I'm glad that we all know what we're doing it for now.
In the CTV, that's Commonwealth Transportation Fund, excuse me, we do have the Port of Virginia in there. So the port, if you haven't been down to the port and you haven't interacted with the port, I highly encourage it. And the port has their strategic plan. They have, how many hours from the port does it take to get the supplies to where it needs to go. So that'll give you an idea of where are these trucks coming. Because some of it maybe the port needs it there. And that could be helpful to you guys too to get some money. And the port is a big economic driver for the state. And that's also in our Commonwealth Transportation Fund, so something we are familiar with. That's an idea as well. But so this helps a lot of different things. And I really do like seeing the maps like this. And I'll ask what that is. And maybe we can talk offline about the data that you've collected to make sure you have better data.
Thank you.
Supervisor Young had a question about another matter.
Yeah, it was, John, I just wanted to ask him about the CMP, that congestion management process that I think it needs to be updated, that CMP. That's what I know it's on page 4. It says FAMPO maintains a congestion management process. So since it's dealing with the northern portion of Stafford, is there a way you can share that with us?
Yeah, actually, I'll give it to Lita, who actually does a lot of the management of that. But yeah, it's regularly updated on our website if you have.
Great. Well, there's kind of two aspects. So there's the performance monitoring. Program. Thank you. That we update quarterly, and it's for, I think, 9 different corridors in the region. Mm-hmm. So in Stafford, that's 95, 1, 610, and 218, and 17. And that we monitor congestion, speed, and travel time interval. Mm-hmm. And that's updated quarterly. And it's on our website. If you go to congestion management process, performance monitoring program, you can see each quarter what it looks like. Yeah. Our congestion management process is a larger document. It's updated every 4 years usually, and we're working on that now, but it's a bit of a more comprehensive heavy list that's kind of wrapped into the LRTP update as well.
Yeah,
So I'm doing that, yeah, I'm kind of working on that right now, and that's crash rate along the same corridors, crash rate, TTI again, and volume capacity ratio, so another kind of metric.
So are you all supposed to, Chairman, are you all supposed to send that in every 4 years?
Yeah,
Okay, so the last 4 years ago, you have one?
I don't think it's fully 4 years old yet, but we are currently working on the new one. But the data is right up to date. So the
Okay.
data on those roads in the PMP, which is
Yeah.
the working document of the CMP,
Mhm.
is on the website, and we update it on the website every 3 months. In fact,
I just wanna process
FAM
wise,
the-
if it's somewhere that I find that.
we actually were recognized by the Federal Review of the Washington DC MPO.
Mhm.
They showed our CMP PMP as an example for the DC MPO to follow, because it's such a great process that we update all the data every 3 months. They were really happy with it and told Washington DC that they should copy the FAMPO.
So you send it into
Okay.
the BZA, what's that? That's where you're supposed to send it into, this
Well,
this process?
we draft the document and we send a copy to Federal Highways,
Mhm.
and we then publish it on our website, and then the data we update as we've said every 3 months, but we don't have to send that data in. We receive the data from our state and federal counterparts. We don't have to give it to them, they give it to us.
So I'm just going by what here. Your private.
Yeah,
That is included in the Washington DC UCA, so it's an acronym, I didn't understand what it was, that's why I was asking.
so that's the, John, do you want to explain what the UZA is? It's the urbanized area, so
Literally urbanized.
we showed you the map earlier of
Okay.
where the DC urbanized area is.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and we work, we have a joint federal review every, I forget how many years, and we had one last year that I attended. But yeah, the feds used us as an example in this small project of something that other people should copy.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to items 8C, the smart scale round 7, draft regional list.
Good evening, everybody. So here's a smart scale update. Not first, not the last. I'd like to meet the regional 3 applications for both FAMPO and GWRC tonight. So I have made these slides because I didn't know how many new folks we were going to have, but mostly I'll have them in your pack. You can read them when you like, but these are a few facts about smart scale. As you know, we're in round 7. It's a biennial cycle. The program does not fund studies. The average funded request last time around was 25 million. The state prioritizes the locations that it finds most important. And last time around, 100% of the funded applications for HPP projects were on priority 1 or 2 locations. So that's where we want to prioritize where our projects are going to be. Basically, we get 5 pre-application slots, and then we each do drop 1 out for 4 total full applications. March 2nd is when the portal opens, so our project's ready for that. And then our full applications are due July 31st. There's when on your pack, you can click down there on the bottom for the website for all the information. So for funding and eligibility, there's 2 types of funding. MPOs and PDCs can only apply for high priority project funding, but localities can apply for both district grant program and high priority project. The HPP program has very strict eligibility. Those are on here. I won't bore you with all of them, but these are what govern what kinds of projects we can have on our regional. And this is just basically some legalese. It tells you what a regionally significant project is. Next slide. So with all of that, the following projects are what we have been working with the TAP on. These are the projects in the region that meet these HPP requirements. All but 2 of them are located on the trans statewide or construction district priority 1 or 2 locations. Half of them have been submitted in previous rounds and have been revised and improved. There are currently 10 of them, as you know, 2 of them are not. Next slide. And this is what you've been waiting for. These are regional list projects that have been vetted through the localities, through VDOT, we've been working on them. Here they are. So we've got Germana Point, Spotsylvania Avenue connector with Unity Road, Warrenton Road improvements in Stafford. 2 sets of those, closer to I-95 and farther away. Garrisonville Road improvements, we've got 2 sets of those as well, closer to 95 and farther away. And Route 208 pipeline study, this is a resubmission from the last round. And then we've got Route 17 Water Trail Canyon Lane. This is part of the Route 17 pipeline study that VDOT did. And going down, we've got Rappahannock River Crossing Parkway, which you'll know about. And then Spotsylvania Route 17 widening from Crosser Drive to Massaplant Church Road, another part of the Route 17. And then I-95 widening southbound. These are our 10 pre-application sites.
I do. I see Warrenton, Chairman?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I see Warrenton twice, and I know the different spots, and I see Garrisonville twice and different spots. But to me, does it water down the essence of the project by splitting it out like this and not making it more intense than the need? Because I just feel that Garrisonville's been up there for 4 years, and we're still up here looking for small scale. The fact that we keep changing it, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
So these are good questions. These are very different projects from what's been before. They learned a lot from submitting them before. These are much more targeted. So some of the previous projects we had were like giant, long, all Garrisonville Road widenings that were like, tens of millions of dollars. Like, I think the last one was something like $100 million or something.
It was, but we put in 50, which still was not enough.
These are very targeted. So when we've been through trainings with they said, focus on specific problems, targeted areas, don't make the project need bigger than it has to be. So we've gone through, well, not we, but the consultants for Stafford have gone through and I said, okay, here's our problem. And here's the scope. It's gonna be like right here. Right? And then over here, right? We've got these problems right here. You cannot submit non-contiguous features as
So I'm hoping that this is just what we see, but the detail is more detailed than to realize that it's 2 separate projects and that they are as important. Right? When you go into the detail.
Yeah, so the slides further on, we're not going to go through them all in detail. They've got all the detail for each project. I think a point we miss is that the bigger you make the project, the less likely it is to get funded.
Oh, yeah. That's one thing.
Because they take your score and they divide it by how much money you want. So the more money you want, the worse your project score is going to be and the less likely you are to get it funded, which is what I think the county did here, is that they made the projects a little smaller so that they have a greater likelihood of getting funded, because when they divide the score by the cost, it gives you a better result. So I think that's why the county has submitted these 2 instead of 1, and they've tried to make them less costly, because the problem with smart scale is that now that step 2 is gone, it's just a straight long division. Score divided by money, done. And whoever gets the best result to that gets the funding.
Well, okay, so last round, as I said, the average cost of the funded projects, the average smart scale request. So if we get much higher than that, we have and what he said was the whole idea that the benefit score is divided by the cost to get your final smart scale score. So the higher your cost, the lower your final score is. So you really need to try and keep your expense down and target that sweet spot of around
So when we submit these, will it be the first time that they see these, or you all do a trial and send in a draft to know where we sit, that we have possibilities to get this?
So our localities have been working closely with our friends at PDOT so that their projects are
Good project.
eligible, and they
Okay.
make sense, and they have logical termini, logical ends.
Is there any way that we could, I'm sorry, do we have a scoring available? Not yet?
There is no preschool. Pre-applications are submitted, unless one is deemed eligible, then you would still have to choose one to go away without. There are different estimations of that in the system.
No cheating.
So we're gonna have a lot more opportunity to be discussing these specific projects over the course of the next couple of months. As this list gets developed, refined, so we'll have a lot more time to talk about it before anything.
We've also been working on trying. Well, since last spring, we've been working on very hard on it because it changes every time. But this one will change to larger projects.
We have another tech workshop on Wednesday, and we're gonna again take a crack at trying to get an understanding of how well each of these projects is likely to do in smart scale. But it's an imperfect science because we don't have all of the tools that the state has at its disposal to do these calculations, and one or two of the data sets are not available to us. So we can't do a perfect pre-scoring. That's what I would like. It's a little harder than it looks. The state has got huge resources. They in fact hire consultants who each score a portion of the project, right? So there are multiple consultants that work on this, and the OIP staff at central office, and we don't have those kind of resources. So we do the best we can. We're getting better at it every year, I think. We've spent more time trying to work on that this round than we have before, but it's an imperfect science. Simply don't know, what the economic development score is going to be beforehand. It's very hard to know that.
But these are the 10 projects. So, next slide. So what we've got for the next 10 slides are slides for each project. I don't need to go over these. Unless you want me to, no, we don't. Nope. They're in your class, and you can read them yourself. So we can go, you need to, through all of these. And you can email me if you have a question. Okay. This is our very draft list. As you know, each of you, dear WRC, FAMPO, both have 5 slots. We distribute them. PAC is going to make, as Ian mentioned, a decision on 14 about the final list and where the projects are going. This is largely administrative. It really doesn't matter. So.
This will come back to you in a month.
Yes.
Hopefully with some recommendations from the TAC, and we'll see what those are.
Yeah. So timeline of this. What's happening? Today you've seen it. January 14th, as we said, they're having a smart scale workshop. They're going to update this, make any changes. The 26th, the GWRC board is going to see all of this too. And on the 9th, you're going to be taking your final look at this and endorsing it. 23rd, the GWRC board is going to be doing the same. You're all going to be working.
So the quick question with the 2 lists, if you go back one, Mr. Lamb. Yeah. What if through the deliberation of the TAC, 2 of the projects on one list or the other out of screen out, you just reshuffle the list then at that point? Or the 5 on the GWRC list competing against each other with 1 to be eliminated, and the 5 on the FAMPO list competing against each other with 1 to be eliminated.
Between now and the pre-application submission, we can modify this list in any way. that
Okay,
we
so we can shuffle it around if it's.
We can do whatever we want until March.
All right, I just want to make sure we weren't having like 2 gladiators.
No.
It's okay.
Not
Two
today.
arenas.
but
Yeah.
one, they've gone into the portal, they
Right, okay. Okay.
The GWRC board has agreed over the years to allow us as staff to prepare both lists,
Mhm.
and then we present it, but we can shuffle this.
Alright.
Until the pre-application submission button is pressed, then we can't shuffle anymore after that.
So we should have an idea of what the bottom 2 are that we think are most likely screened out at that point. We don't have one on there.
Yeah, we've got a month. You all are free to talk about yourselves or to give us comments. The TAC is going to talk among themselves and give comments. We'll make some recommendations to you. It may be that 1 or 2 of those projects fall off completely, right? If not, we may need to eventually vote to remove. But we'll let you know when the crisis moment comes when you need to do something.
All right. Move on to item. Yeah, thanks, Missy. Let's move on to item 8P, the LRTP 2055 public survey, Mr. Lyon.
So this is our new long-range transportation project group. Okay. We're going to be releasing it hopefully between January 20th and March 3rd. Survey is to help inform us better on what our goals and objectives should be for our 2025 LRT. Take you through the questions really quickly. Each question follows the exact same format. It lists our goal, asks if it's a good goal for our transportation system. It lists out the objectives that we have for the goal and asks the people taking it what we should do to achieve that goal. Every question also has a more open question that asks them to target specific problem areas that helps us see where they are specifically related to the goal.
So that is a change. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
That is a change. The last time we did this 5 years ago, they just used these option kind of questions. This year we added to each question an open-ended section so people can write something that we haven't thought of. There's a space to do that. You can add other things and also tell us this section drives me bananas because of this and this reason. So the public can actually give us specific locations or write something that we might not have thought of that would be very helpful.
Again, every single one of these is very similar to each other, and there are 7 goals total.
Mr. Lang, are the goals fixed, or is there an opportunity for the public to add new goals that we haven't necessarily thought of?
Oh, this takes us to our final question, actually, where it's time for us to consider their idea. So if they have suggestions for other goal objectives, then yes, we can absolutely take that into consideration. These are not, I believe, fixed. We can deviate from them as much as we need, depending on what we think is best for the public. One final open-ended question, and at the end, we have questions asking for their name, email address, as well as their zip code. We also have a demographic survey at the end, seeing if they identify with any of our environmental justice groups. The only question here that is required is the zip code. Yeah, if we have any questions or comments, I'm happy to take them now. Otherwise, send them to me.
Would it be possible for the zip code question to disambiguate the zip code in the jurisdictions that have codes? Is that too complicated? Because it might be nice to get some more fine-grained geographical data about where people respond. Because the way it's grouped now, we will know which jurisdiction they respond from, but not, where in a given jurisdiction. So in, Stafford County, we're not going to know what percentage of the responses are coming from North Stafford, South Stafford.
Sorry?
Mr. Watkins will be on there. I mean, it doesn't matter for us because we just have one zip code, right? But
I mean, we could do one of two things. We could not give them the choice and ask them just to type in their zip code, but sometimes people get it wrong. Or we could, separate those all out, but it's going to make the list really long. But we can do that.
If there's that, I would like that, right? Particularly for the other jurisdictions, right? To get a little bit more fine grained
Most important zip code.
I would like geographical data about where the responses are coming from.
We can absolutely.
Yeah, we can do that.
Council.
I had some questions about goal 4. Some of the, like, what should we do to achieve goal 4? Okay, I'm just looking, like, okay, so like the 4th one down, incorporate environmentally sensitive designs to minimize environmental impacts and maintain aesthetic value. I'm not like, I'm not sure that everybody's gonna know what we're talking about there. I'm not sure I do.
We can remove it.
Well, I'm not saying, I think we should just like maybe put something, like language in there that, is easier to understand what we're trying to get to.
A little
Next
dark.
The next one is also collaborate with environmental agencies and entities to incorporate environmentally sensitive designs to minimize environmental impacts and maintain aesthetic value. Again, like, are we talking about like we want things, we want to maintain pretty views? Like, I'm not saying say that. Is that what we're talking about?
Okay.
So really, like, we want to be able to see the Rappahannock River. Like, let's not like do something that's going to mess up the view to the Rappahannock River or things like that. Is that what we're saying? That's what it's getting at. What do we?
So we will, for those bullets that you've mentioned, we will simplify that language for the final survey. That's one of the reasons why we look to you all for guidance to say we'd like this better, we'd like that different, take that out.
I think this whole 4 needs some clarification.
We will simplify the language.
Okay.
Mhm.
To support.
Councilor Hom, Jamin.
I'm sure. Is usually when you do surveys or any data analysis and you're asking, you do it at a 6th grade level. And so I know we are educated, some of us, college or even more. And so we do this, but let's say you have to dummy it down. Everybody.
No, I think you're right. I think we must simplify the language and take out some jargon, and I think we will do that for specifically for question 4, and we'll also just take one last look at the jargon elsewhere in the thing. I think you make a very valid point.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other questions, thoughts?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I do.
Okay, Councilor Ho, yeah.
Okay, so when I was reading through this, and it's really pretty comprehensive, and I thought about the letters that we get and like the feedback that you get from when you're doing outreach events. And I'm wondering if like sometimes some of those comments go into this kind of a survey, or they might answer some of the, when people send us comments, do we send them links to do a survey?
It depends on whether they request to be put on an email list and to be contacted further by us. So if they want to continue having some kind of dialogue, then yes, they will be informed about it. But if they want to send in their survey, send in their comment, and that's the end of that, then.
Because I think like some of the comments that we've gotten, or letters that we've gotten, like goal number 1, have an efficient, convenient, interconnected, multimodal transportation system. But those comments never get put into, like, that's good feedback that we're getting there, but it's never going to be on this survey unless they complete the survey. Is that right?
So yeah, the answer is, as Eugene says, everybody who's prepared to give us their email address, when they make whatever submission, they automatically then go onto our mailing list, and they will get the survey now when we send it out in a week's time. Some people just don't want to give you their contact details, or they don't mind giving it so that they can be identified, but they don't actually want to be bothered anymore. They want to be left alone.
Yeah. it's just valuable information that they're sending us. It's like, it's in this silo, and then we're gonna have this silo. I'm trying to figure out a way to pollinate a little bit.
All right. Okay. Let's move on to item 8E, the Rappahannock River Crossing Parkway, Spotsylvania County additional crossing to Route 3 follow-up discussion. I'm gonna take Mr. Allison.
So, yeah, really, this is something that policy committee members mandated us to put on the January agenda. Part of the discussion started because a member of the CTEC proposed an alternative. And if you can, Eugene, just scroll down to the map. So there you can see the alternative was there to build an additional bridge across the river and a new routing to Route 3 from the same origin point as the river crossing option C, which you all chose as the locally preferred corridor. And you asked me to put this on the agenda for discussion. So I am not going to lead the discussion because that would imply that I'm telling you what you should do. So it's for you guys to discuss and tell me what you would like us to do after this meeting about this issue. So let's put the CTEC graphic up there just to jog your memory. But in November, you all asked us to please include this discussion in this meeting. So I'm going to say it's over to the committee.
Can I start with a practical question for you?
Yes.
Which is, you know, what are our options with this, right? You know, we could obviously do nothing, right? We could ask you to develop some sort of more information about it, right? But that's going to would that require us dedicating some resources to getting those questions answered?
Depends what information you want.
Okay.
If you want a study, then we will need to allocate funding because we can't do a study without a consultant. Primarily because there are some aspects that have to be considered. When you do a study, it's considered a new study, not an attachment to the study that's just depleted. It's a new study. And a new study needs to consider options, not here's the bridge, build it. It's got to look at options and what you are trying to achieve. So you have to have a purpose and need. Then you do a study to determine which option fulfills that purpose and need, which we did with the last study. And that will require some work, and that work will need to get funded. So that is one option, is to do a full study. If you just want information about likely impacts that staff can identify, we can come with a couple of pages of just analysis of what's involved there.
Meaning traffic impacts, environmental impacts.
Yes, but it's not of a study. It's identifying what impacts there would be if we do this at a very high level. Somebody last year suggested in your discussion that we recommend that this gets added to the future NEPA process for the preferred option C, which we have identified. There is one danger to that, and I need to just tell you the facts. What you decide to do about them is up to you. But if you add that as another option to the study that we've just finished and request NEPA, the NEPA process to look at this another option, NEPA is not likely to pick two bridges. So you might be sacrificing the one you've already agreed on if NEPA decides that this is better, right? So then you're doing away with the one that we just spent $600 and some thousand designing and going for something completely new over here. Now the NEPA study considers alternatives de novo anyway, so I'm not saying they can't do that. But just remember, if you specifically ask them to add this, they're not likely to recommend multiple bridges. They're going to pick the best one that does whatever the job is we're trying to do, and it might be the green one or it might be the white one. But I'm happy to hear from the VDOT members in the room. I doubt they would do bridges. there. Every bridge has environmental negatives that you got to deal with. Every bridge costs hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not a cheap thing to do, etc. So I don't have a specific answer for you, but these are kinds of options that are available. Do a new study, got to fund it. You could ask us just to do some additional research on this potential idea. You could, I guess, ask whoever's going to do the NEPA process, which will involve VDOT, not FAMPO will not drive the NEPA project. VDOT will drive it once we've found the funding, and that will be up to that process to decide whether this is an option which fulfills the purpose and need of the project we've handed over. VDOT may have additional options that I haven't thought of, but this is what I know about. There may be some others that I can't think of right now.
Mr. Chair, it's Lori Hayes. When you get it, I don't want to interrupt anybody. I can't tell.
Go ahead,
Anybody's ahead of
Lori.
me.
Jump ahead, Lori.
So, the concern, and I kind of am speaking, from Drew's perspective too, since he's not in the room, but he did mention this to me, that his concern is using that STBG money towards something like this. And so, expanding out, I guess, I'm just kind of putting that out there. Like from what Ian just said, I think a few minutes ago, if I heard correctly, it might muddy the waters. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I was suggesting that we either have to do a new study of this as a new project, or somebody
Right.
suggested we should ask that the NEPA process considers this as one of the alternatives to be added to their study, which
Okay.
would have the potential that they will scrap the other option C and only build the green line, or scrap the green line and only build option C. It's, in my opinion, and I'm hoping VDOT has better than just my opinion to share with you, is that it's unlikely they're going to pick both and proceed with both. That would be a very unusual decision.
Gotcha.
It could happen, but I would guess that it's unlikely that we would need two bridges to fulfill the purpose and need. But I'm
Right.
not sure.
I have a hard time believing that we would either get money or local support, which is also, right? I think that it's going to be, yeah. So I agree with that, right? So I think okay. I have my thoughts, but I'm listening.
I think maybe are we just thinking, okay, maybe address this. I mean, I know we told you to bring it back later, but I'm feeling like maybe I need to have more time to think about the right questions to ask, if that makes any sense.
Okay, defer. Sure, we absolutely can if we want. Yeah.
I'm certain that over time, we will not only build one bridge over the Rappahannock River. As this region develops, if the population keeps growing, if we have to keep making new roads, we're going to have to build further west additional bridges. I don't know if that's 1 or 5 time.
Right.
This is a long-term project to keep the region moving, and I'm fairly certain additional interventions will be required, but it's a little bit further out into the future, so we have time to decide where. And
so we have Supervisor Yakubowski, Councilor Holmes.
I was just.
Dr. Brown. I'm going to go at 7:30 because apparently it's not the first thing on the agenda.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so a couple of things is that, we're sitting here at the exact same position that we've been at for decades. And we still do the same thing, which is, I don't know if we want to do this or not. So I have two
Mhm.
questions. One is when the NEPA study is done, they're gonna pick that area in there somewhere, right? There's no way, if there's an alternative, that they would actually come over to this way and go, actually, this is a better place for it. That's one question, and you don't have to answer that right now. And then the second thing is, irregardless of how that happens, how do we make sure that, because as we've been talking about this, we do realize there's not one other place to cross over the river from Stafford to Swansea west of the city until you get into Orange. So we have done a horrible job of planning for the future. This is the last spot, and the upside of that is that the county, Swansea County, actually owns a lot of that land in there. And we're not gonna be getting rid of that anytime soon. So, not that it's gonna go away, but I would rather have this as a line on a map, saying this is something that we would like to do at some point. Because we don't have a lot of money and this one took priority, we understand that, and you all know where I come from on that. But I don't wanna lose this as an idea. Because 20 years from now, if it's all built up, somebody's gonna look and go, you know where a great place for a bridge would have been? And what can we do to preserve that?
Mhm.
To make sure that that is something that we line it up, we put it into its proper place. I don't wanna overtake anything, but I also don't want it to fall away and us lose the opportunity.
So this might be a conversation for you folks in Stafford to have about your comprehensive plans,
There are two things we
putting
can,
that line there.
yeah.
You mean,
I meant you folks, i.e. Swansea, sorry,
Oh.
yes, and Stafford.
So there are two things that can be done, and that's one of them. That's Swansea can decide to put this in their map as a future in their comprehensive plan as a future project, which then when you get applications from developers, you can point them to the project on the map and kind of park some land for this future project. You can request FAMPO to put it in the long range plan needs list. So we can take the map and put it in the FAMPO long range transportation plan and list it in the needs list. We won't put it in the constrained long range plan because you have to identify the funding if you're going to put it in there. But we can put things in the needs list so that when you apply for funding, they ask you the question, is it in your long range plan? The answer is yes. So we can also put it in the long range plan needs list because the needs list doesn't have to be constrained. We don't have to prove where we're going to get the money from for the needs list. However, often things that start in the needs list can then be put in the constrained plan when we find some money. So there are two avenues for putting this in two plans, the FAMPO long range plan and the county plan, so that in future, if I drop dead or whatever happens, it's still in a document that is the official plan of both the jurisdiction and the MPO.
Right, because they'll be built after any of us are on FAMPO. I mean, it's not gonna happen anytime soon. Yeah, well,
Jeez.
I'm gonna be retired, not dead. Hopefully. But then.
So
what
can we?
what I'm asking, the next step is,
Just a moment.
yeah, one second, Laura. The next step is for us to do it too, but we also need to work with Stafford too. So do we need to get with Stafford and provide FAMPO a letter, do something like that and say, hey, we have talked about this
Right.
and this is what we'd like to do. We're gonna put in our plan, they put it in their plan, and then it's at least somewhere and we can work on it later.
Can I just,
Right.
I know,
Right.
trying to talk, can I chime in just on the Stafford piece real quick, Lori?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so we're updating our comprehensive plan now, like we just started that process. And this is something we could definitely take back to our board. Can you email county staff tomorrow and let them know that we had this discussion and would like to add that to one of the items to discuss in regards to our comprehensive update? Does anybody have an issue with that, with the Stafford side? To start having a discussion to add this to our comprehensive plan.
So we could do all of that, add it to the plan and everything, but why can we not include it? Like, can we defer it and then talk to them versus making the decision now? I want to hear more about Laurie's thoughts on this because I don't see why we cannot put it in the plan now? You're saying,
No,
are
we
you
can.
deciding that one will be removed versus?
No,
No.
no.
Okay,
No, we
I
can.
think what we're
Can
saying
we
here.
just
I
defer
can-
it until, can we just defer it until like next month or something?
Yeah, and I think what we need to do is we need to talk with our board about it. You guys need to talk with your board about it. And then
Yeah.
what we'll do is we'll go back.
Be able to bring it back that fast, though. If-
Oh, no, that's fine.
So are we deferring it until next month, or are we gonna wait until we talk to our boards and bring
Each
it back in
board.
like May or April?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, let's do that.
So
Let's do it
like
that way.
Yeah, that's fine.
May, because we gotta get through the budget and stuff, and then
Yeah,
this would be
May,
something
yeah,
that we
that's
bring
good.
back.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I just
that's
don't want
fine.
it to get lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
Right.
Did you want to
right.
jump in, Mr. Brennan?
I was just gonna make a comment to both Spotsylvania and Stafford County regarding climate. If that line is moved any further west, you're gonna be impacting the water treatment plant.
Right.
Yeah.
As well as the intake, so, that's be something to be cognizant of. When that is being evaluated, add it through the process. There are things that have to be taken into consideration, so therefore that alignment may not necessarily be where it
You're
should.
talking about the green line, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Move it any further west and it's impacting.
It's gonna, you see where the big body of water, that's Mott's Reservoir.
Yeah.
Adjacent to that's a dam and the water treatment plant. There's also an intake in the Rappahannock River.
Gotcha.
I just would say, and I'm about to turn the gavel over here to Supervisor Vanush, but I think that this is great. I like that. Come back in May, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, I think this is a conversation that actually is very worth having. I just want to make sure, to your point, Supervisor Yakubowski, that we're not doing anything to derail the momentum on option C, right? Because I think that we did a lot of hard work to achieve consensus on that, and we're doing a lot of hard work to move that forward. So I think so we are. And what?
600,000.
And we spent $600,000, right? So I want to make sure that we're not doing anything that's going to derail that momentum. So, but I think that conversations about long range plans make a ton of sense. All right, thank you guys.
Okay, item number 9 is next. Communities North research of funding for the River Crossing Parkway utilizing community development authorities, which are CDAs. I think Commissioner Seller or Representative Sellers is. Go ahead.
Yeah, so she sent us this, and the chairman asked me to please bring it to your attention so that just anything in the thing. Do you want to? I'm not the chairman.
Say, you guys have questions, but you do have these CDAs that are already in place that are not being utilized. And, it's not clear why you're not gonna use just the local authorities you have before going and requesting new authorities from a brand new delegation. So that's kind of what it's saying is, why aren't we using these CDAs? And this is coming from somebody who pays into a CDA, so I'm very familiar with the CDA process. They do work.
So if I might, yeah, we have multiple CDAs and other taxing districts in the county service districts too. The the question is, what would the CDA be on? Are we just taxing the area, or are you talking about a whole county-wide?
No, the CDA should have already been established. So these CDAs have already been established. They had to have legislative authority. These are established, and it should identify what parcels are included to have to pay into the CDA and what the CDA can pay for, and that maximum cap on the CDA. Now, a taxing district is a little different. Prince William County, I know, has a lot. I didn't know Spotsy had that many, but like Prince William County has a fire district. They have a couple of different transportation districts. Stafford has 2 transportation districts, a North Stafford, one in Garrisonville, and then a one on 17 that's actually at 0. But they do have the established taxing districts. So you have these authorities that the legislature has already provided. It's not clear why we're going, to the transportation authority without first using what we have.
So, I'm sorry. But so the CDAs are in Stafford.
One staff
And-
one in the
and-
city.
But for them to fund something like this project, I mean, it would be an enormous taxing amount that you would have to do on that. So are you saying just a partial funding? It wouldn't be a complete coverage of it because
There's no way.
I,
Yeah.
And why would they pay for?
And we've looked into our CDA, so the Celebrate Virginia CDA is specific to the new road infrastructure that went into supporting that neighborhood, so when they're passed, same way with Embry Mill. It's not like we can tax the residents of Embry Mill to build a road in Rock Hill, you know, like, so it's very specific and tied to like the development in that area and serving the constituents in that specific community. I don't think we would want to try to say that the bridge is for Celebrate Virginia Parkway constituents only, and then have them paying for it, and then having all of Virginia utilizing that bridge.
Right.
We do have one on Route 17 as well as Garrisonville, but we are still very, very limited in our scope, and you actually have to tie your transportation studies back to the funding mechanisms, which is why the Route 17 has remained at 0 until we've finished some additional studies, and then there are actually road projects in there. So in the future, we probably could tap into the Route 17 CDA a little bit just to fund a portion of the
Well,
county
it's-
share of
It's
it.
a Celebrate Virginia CDA.
Or
and it's
the
Route
the
17
taxing,
package.
yeah, the service district.
Yeah.
But the CDAs are very specific to the neighborhood,
But no, that's not true. Embry Mill CDA paid for the mine road extensions, which support, and if we go back to 4 years ago, when the highway shut down on a snowstorm, Mine Road became the thoroughfare that they use, and we didn't have any power. I know Supervisor Young didn't have any power.
But that was part of the
But they
development
used
plan.
it.
So-
It was, and so these CDAs are the same thing. So they can be used. And it's just throwing it out there that you have these in place. You can start by using them and then contact the legislature later down the line and say, okay, we need additional funding. But it's a place to start, and to get it going. But just, we do have a very new delegation with few exceptions, and to think they're gonna be able to get a transportation authority through, it's tough. Or it would have been done. So why would you delay it when you have the taxing authority in place? No, start using what's there.
Anybody else?
I echo, I hear what everyone has said. I would just have a concern with a small group of people paying for something that's gonna be a regional asset and used. That would be my concern with this. And I know Embry Mill, I've heard their complaints. I've spoken with some of the constituents there, but I just wouldn't feel comfortable.
But they agreed to it, just like when we go to Embry Mill.
Yeah,
It was agreed to in the plan, no different than a proffer. It's agreed to, it's part of it, and yeah, it's not a comfortable conversation, it's not very fun.
but I don't think,
Yeah, the amount's the property for a certain period of years, so it'll move on from you, like for 30 years or whatever was agreed to in the proffers. So we can't just we can't go to Celebrate Virginia and say, oh, by the way, we're extending yours for 30 more years so you can pay
No,
$400
it's once you
million.
take it out. So if the bonds haven't been taken out, the authority's there, you can do it today, and all of these people had to sign on to pay for this. And it is, it is a 30-year agreement, but a house built today in Embry Mill still has to pay their fair share of the CDA, just like I did, even though I've been there for a decade. It's the same 30-year agreement, we pay the same price, their CDA is gonna be higher. Cause they have to, what I've been able to pay over the last 10 years will now be truncated, but it's the same amount. We all pay into the same thing, no different than a proffer. So they all agree to it.
But they didn't agree to build this bridge.
Yeah, they didn't.
We did, but they agreed to the road infrastructure, so it's there. That's the point. The infrastructure's there. Is it a tough conversation? Absolutely. Embry Mill hates it. Dr. Young will tell you, Embry Mill hates paying that CDA, but we paid it. We paid it on Mine Road. We paid it for a water tower, and they give her grief every single year when she comes to speak to the HOA. They gave me grief, and I lived there and paid into it as a supervisor.
Okay, item number 10, staff and agency reports. Policy committee survey results is going to be Mr. Lang.
Right, so this is the exact same presentation that we gave you guys, back in November. This is the policy survey results for 2021 FAMPO focus areas. You will all remember the, survey that we released to policy committee. This is for the benefit of our new members that are here tonight who do not see this back in November, so. We have 11 voting members, 8 alternates, we got 8 survey responses in total. This is question 1, rank your transportation concerns. Question 2, these are 3 projects that FAMPO should work on. Question 3, the VWP potential projects that FAMPO should prioritize in the next 1 to 2 years. These are not separate graphs. This is just sort of taking over here and making it bigger. One person specified other, and that other was east connectivity through Dahlgren. Question 4 is items that the policy committee should discuss more. Question 5 is how FAMPO can promote regionalism within the committee. And question 6 is interventions to add in the LTP. I believe last time there was discussion of having the new members take the survey as well. Either we're gonna probably do a similar survey, but we're gonna give it about 3 months or so that they can kind of get the foundation under their feet of understanding what's going on.
Thanks.
Okay, any questions? All right, then, complete street survey results. Ms. Veda.
Yes, hi everyone. So this is just a brief summary overview of the Complete Streets workshops we hosted in the end of November and in December, and initial read on the responses to our survey for Complete Streets. So if we go to the next slide, these are just some pictures from the workshops we had. And if you click next, we had 3 workshops, 1 in each of the FAMPO jurisdictions. Next, 3 activities at those workshops to just try and engage the public, get them to, hang out, talk with their neighbors, stay and think about Complete Streets type things. And finally, we had 30 attendees overall across the 3 workshops. So if you go to the next slide, this is just, again, part of that workshop overview. We had some printed materials for people to be able to flip through and, have something to look at, something to talk about again, ask us questions about. And this is just a Complete Streets fact book. So what even is Complete Streets? What does it look like in Virginia? Are there policies in place around the state? Where are those in place? And also, again, looking statewide at regional trail profiles, and kind of the background on how a lot of regional trails that are actually currently in development kind of got their start, and have got momentum, or like what that trajectory has looked like and is continuing to look like. Next slide. This was an interactive activity where participants at the workshops could come and design their own streetscape, their own street cross section, just to get people thinking about, what features they do want to see in Complete Streets planning. If you click the next slide, this is kind of the final hands-on activity, but we had some community mapping where members of the public could come put stickers on the map, and use expo markers to draw maybe new connections or whatever they felt like. And I found this activity was great at getting people to just kind of give them something to reference when talking with neighbors, when talking with just other residents in the community, with planners to point out their problems, and keep the discussion going. So if you go to the next slide, and we'll go right into initial survey results. So overall, we had 285 survey responses. And yeah, you can go next. And this is just kind of, scooping off initial look at some of those responses. So top responses for destinations for each mode of transportation are here. There were more options available and more that people chose, but I usually would pick the top 30 to show you all. So this is where people were walking, biking, or taking public transportation, and broken down as a percentage of all survey takers. If you go to the next slide, I also broke out the top responses for limiting factors, why people don't walk in the region, why they don't bike, why they don't use public transportation, and whether that was a safety issue or a lack of infrastructure or lack of service. Next, Eugene. Finally, these were the supported improvements. So for walking and biking, you see a concern for safety being an issue, but also just want for more infrastructure. And for public transportation, it was kind of the quality of service or wanting more destinations and wanting more service, more frequent service, faster, more direct service, so that's kind of quality, and then more destinations accessible by bus. So I think final slide. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Ian mentioned it in his administrator report, but we are working on a complete streets plan, and stuff from this will definitely.
Next meeting will be in Stafford, so put it in your calendar. Don't drive to the
Do we
wrong
want to change
place.
it back?
Drive to the wrong place.
Okay.
And then we'd like to carpool to the Spotsylvania meeting the following month.
Oh, my God.
So do we,
Don't come here next month is
Yeah.
what we're telling you.
Any comments or questions on that? Just because I want to make sure that we highlight it so that the date and the location are going to be different for the next meeting.
hosting in our jurisdictions, are we responsible for?
Food, yeah.
No, FAMPO is still doing everything.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
just we're in our building.
Giving us
Man,
the
I
free
bet.
venue.
a nice spread?
I'm-
Yeah, you don't want a nice spread, and I'm not coming back.
Feel free to invite,
Stafford, all
free to invite your residents who don't normally have the opportunity to come to the meeting. I think that was the logic.
Oh, that was.
Yeah,
that-
happening. Okay,
yeah, there was some logic, but anyway.
Space there for you, invite a lot of people.
Well, don't have.
ABC
cross
is
that
bigger
bridge.
than this.
Yeah, the ABC is bigger.
Than
So
this.
anyway, any other comments on the meeting location or time change? Okay. Change, all right, and the meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.
We're gonna go
Yes,
spread,
give
we're
me-
gonna